Alright, here we go. Project SR-71, and we're looking to make the 6 foot long, 4 foot wide. Those are the basic sizes, and at some point we'll decide whether we're going to go pusher or we're going to go with twin jet engine, prop jet. I believe that's what they're called. Anyways, we'll see what happens using the Depron, and we'll decide most likely 4 foot wide, 6 foot long. Now with the blowing up the 3 view drawings into full size layout sheet, put all the pieces together and come out with your full layout, and then draw your fine lines so that you can get your border lines. Once you've got all your sheets put together, cut the plans in half. It'll be identical sides. Just flip it over and do the other side, and highlight your outside edges. You have some rough lines, so you have to sharpen them up with a yardstick or ruler. And for your curves, what I use, heavy object, bend your wire, just a fine wire, take the Sharpie, just lightly go right over it. You got a perfect bend to follow your curve, and you could shape it pretty much any way you want. And then start laying out your materials to build with. Alright, SR-71. We're going to try putting together the 3 sheets, at least 3, maybe an extra little piece for the nose, but 3 sheets of the 9mm Depron with the fabric tack. And just splice them together. Here's a seam, and hoping that the canopy and the underside will give it the strength to keep it together. Alright, now I've cut out all the excess material. Now I've got my border line cut for the shape of the actual fuselage. It'll be all one piece, and the nose section I'll have to add another piece to it, and then my stiffeners on the top and bottom full length will give it all the strength. Now it's a matter of starting to cut parts. Alright, these are my patterns. I spliced 2 large sheets to get the main part of the fuselage, and then the leftover pieces, the remnants, I used to cut the nose, and I spliced it together right down the middle, just like you see the patterns. And there's the body. There's the whole body. Now we start working on nacelles, engine covers, or put it this way, jet nacelles, and vertical fin, and fuselage buildup. Alright, now that we've got the main part of the aircraft, the platform all cut out, now we have to make the nacelle, the fuselage nacelle. So to get our arc to follow the nose back and around back to the very tail point, take a little piece of wire, flexible wire, piano wire. I'm anchoring it with the fuel can, a full fuel can, putting it on the straight edge here. Flex it so that you can get just a respectable curve. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to just blend. Take your marker and just let it drag around the outside of that wire, or the inside, doesn't matter. Let it drag, and you'll get a beautiful arc. And that'll be our fuselage nacelle. And I have to make one large piece or a couple of pieces depending on the size of the sheet. And then we're going to flex it. This, for instance, will be our fuselage nacelle, our canopy fuselage, and mark it down the middle using the tape. This is black duct tape. Have a line down the middle in the back on the bottom side, and I took a pair of needle nose pliers and scored it and bent it, scored it and bent it to where I got a decent arc. And then once it's done like that, the full length, depending on 2 or 3 pieces, not sure yet, then slice the bottom so that it sits flat on your fuselage. Here's a little trick, it might be of some help. Where I've got my arc, going here on the plan. Well, to transfer it over, I just put a couple of little notches, marks, couple of little marks about an inch and a half apart to follow the arc, and then I'm just going to cut out the thickness of the marker, say 1/16 line, just about a 1/4 inch each spot, so that all I can do is just mark it, and then do the same thing with the wire, or just freehand it so that I can get the arc. All right, here's the fuselage, the canopy, all the way back to the tail, and this is what it's going to be shaped like. So we're going to crease it down the middle, and then we're going to fold it over and make the top of the fuselage. On the nose section, this is a duplicate of piece of the nose, and the reason it's a piece is because I broke it up so that for the strength. I've got one panel back here. See if I can get a better shot of it. One panel here for the main part of the body, a piece for the very tail end, and then the piece for the front. Splice it. Save material plus for strength. On the nose, it's an exact copy. Nose is an exact copy of the front. And what you end up doing is coming back at 3 inches from the front, from the nose, 3 inches back. Put your mark. 18 inches from the nose back. So it'd be be 15 inches from the point now to here. So overall is 18 inches to here. Cut your groove out. So this is what you end up taking out. Is that came out of there. And then you'll bend it over with the tape on top. Keeps it together like the sample I showed you. And then you cut or trim the inside of this one at a time so that you get your bevel, your pitch. And when it's all done, you've got an arc. And then you splice in the back, all the way back. Put it together, tape it or glue it, whichever you decide. I'm going to tape it and then glue it after. And then I'm going to cut the bevel on the bottom so that it's flush with the fuselage. So when it's all said and done, it's going to sit right there. And it should blend. It'll probably have about a 1/2 inch clearance on each side so that it just kind of blends into the fuselage. Alright, we've done the nose piece for the fuse, or the canopy part on back to the fuselage. So I cut the piece out from here to here. I pulled them together, and then I trimmed the excess material so that we got a flush joint. Otherwise you'd have a big gap. So you trim it out, keep slicing until you get a nice clean edge. Little gap on the inside is fine. And then you trim the whole surface here so that it fits as close as you can to the surface of the fuselage. Get very little gap. I got to fine tune it, so it depends on how clean you want it. Eventually the tape will cover it up, so you'll never see the gap. And at the same time, this is going to create strength. Now we have to do the second part. That's what I've done. Here's the second part, the middle part. Put a line down the middle. We've got tape down the outside so that when we bend it, the tape is going to keep it from snapping. And basically it ends up being two parts. This was one part, but by the time you cut it out in here, actually I didn't cut it first. I took a pair of pliers, used the needle nose, and then I scored it with a straight edge all the way down. Keep scoring it till you get a spongy bend action. And then what I did was I put a couple of straight lines on it and then peeled out with an X-Acto or with a blade. I peeled out enough material, about a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, without cutting the back side. If you cut the back side, you got to retape it. Just trim it so that it gives you a little more clearance to bend and fold. And that's about all we're getting out of it. We don't want too much more than that because it's our keel for the back of the fuselage. Just like so. Right here, I'm putting on the nose piece, the front piece, onto the middle section. And I just lined them up, put the bend in it so that it would be flush on one side, and just put a couple of pieces of tape to get it locked in, and it should be one piece.